be back with you, ladies and gentlemen. This whole show, this whole day has been a revelation and an education to me. Milling around the playground, looking at the hot dogs and the knishes and the chartreuse. Weren't there chartreuse?
No.
Well, I must have been imagining it. Looking at all this wonderful food, and I'm on Nutrisystem. 3 weeks already, I lost 21 days. You have been such a wonderful audience. Beautiful thing, just mingling in that playground today, listening to the conversation, the friendliness of the people. A woman came up to me, she said, I have 2 favorite comedians, and you're one of them. I said, thank you. Who's the other one? She said, Walter Cronkite. Now, I've been out there listening to all the wonderful stories, the entertainment. Gary Marshall, my goodness. Isn't it something that he could come out and you, the audience, would accept the subject of condoms? We can talk about that now? And I think it's good for America. Let's open up. We can listen, we can learn. I'll tell you something. I just read of a company that's coming out with 3 new kinds of condoms. The first is for teenagers, comes in school colors. The second condom is for Catholics. It's open on both ends. Third condom is for senior citizens. It comes with suspenders. You can talk about this now. How about all those ads? Impotency can be cured. Impotency. They're talking about it now. I'd like to take a vote here. How many men in this audience tonight are impotent? Raise your hand. See, you can't even get your hands up. Look at this. A new generation of audiences. You can talk about that. I just read an article. Is the penis a separate entity from the man? If it wasn't, how come it gets up earlier in the morning than he does? Goes to sleep when he doesn't want it. Nobody's leaving the theater. You can talk about these things. I saw something in a playground. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't pass it on to you, ladies. No, I just couldn't believe the conversation because I was listening. Comedians listen. That's how we get an idea of what's going on. I saw a guy cut across the playground and came up to a girl. He said, Charlotte, you remember me? He said, Larry. She said, my old high school sweetheart. That was 30 years ago. He said, Charlotte, you look fantastic. You haven't changed a bit. You must be in great shape. She said, Larry, I have bad news and I got good news. What's the bad news? Last week, they removed my vagina. What's the good news? They found your class ring. Me of another joke. A woman goes to a doctor, she said, please help me, I swallowed a needle. Doc says, come in the x-ray room. Gives her an x-ray, he says, that needle has worked its way down from your throat down to your vagina. She says, what'll I do? Well, the next time you make love, tell your husband to use a thimble. I can't hold my water. What should I do? He says, get off my carpet. cruises, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where it all came from. I swear I don't. I went to Tilden High School. I was studying to be a commercial artist. I had already enrolled at Pratt Institute to follow my high school career. Where did all this come from? Show business. I don't know, except I have 3 sisters. My sister Rose, brilliant mind. She went to Franklin K. Lane High School. Straight A's. When she brought her report card home and showed it to my father, he was so proud. Then I showed him my report card. F's and D's. My father said, "What are you, some kind of a comedian?" My sister Bunny, she was one of the cheerleaders at Tilden High School. We lived the same kind of a life in Brownsville, on Sutter and Rockaway. I'll tell you something. Anybody that doesn't come from Brooklyn is a victim of circumstance. I don't know what cities you may be from, but if you're from New York, you understand. But I tell you, people who weren't born in Brooklyn will never know the thrill of biting a Nathan's hot dog and it spits on you. They will never know what it is to sleep on a fire escape on a hot summer day. And to be awakened in the morning by the clank of the milkman's bottle. They'll never know the ecstasy of buying a herring from a pushcart on Belmont Avenue that has been wrapped in the latest edition of the Forbes. They will never know the thrill, ladies and gentlemen, that we enjoyed in our life growing up in any part of New York. It was wonderful. And here I came to California. I met a beautiful girl from Yonkers. I got tired of taking that subway trip from Utica Avenue all the way up to Van Cortlandt Park. We got married. We moved to California. I bought myself a house on top of a hill. And then the rains came. Next year I lived in the valley. Same house. We didn't even need a car because the house took us everywhere. Show business. And here we are now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just delighted to be with you. I work on these cruises now. You eat too much if you go on those cruises. You know that. You get out as a passenger, you get off as cargo. We had one woman at our table in the dining room wore a knife and fork on her charm bracelet. One night there was an empty white jacket lying on the floor of the dining room and a woman screamed, "My God, they ate the busboy." At the end of the cruise, I didn't know did I gain, did I lose, or what. I got on a small scale in my small bathroom. I couldn't believe my eyes. I lost 30 pounds. Then I found my stomach resting on the sink. What an audience. What changes in this world. Russia, from where my mother came from, a small province called Krasnostavolinsky Gubernia. She voted in America for 60 years, and then she decided to take out citizenship papers. I went with her to the court when she was to receive her first papers. First, she had a little questionnaire to fill out. Your name, she gave her name. Your occupation, she said Jewish. Sex, she said not lately. Then the judge showed her a portrait of Abraham Lincoln, which she proudly identified. She said, "That's Abraham Lincoln." Then he showed her a portrait of George Washington. She said, "That's his wife." He put a bumper sticker on his car which said, "Teenagers are born leaders. You are following one now." He put it on his front bumper. The other day he said to me, "Dad, I got bad news and I got good news." I said, "What's the bad news?" "Last night I borrowed your Mercedes." What's the good news? He says, your airbag works. I love to talk about the kids. That too is in the spirit of fun, I assure you. I don't really have a dumb kid, but I like to talk about it, because a lot of people say, well, my kid is that way, see? Like one day my son came to me and he said, hey, Dad, I can't sell my car. I said, how many miles you got? He said, 98,000. I said, I don't think anybody's going to buy a car with 98,000 miles. He said, what'll I do? I said, well, Otto. We named him Otto so we'd have only 2 letters to remember. Some people do, turn the odometer back. 2 days later I asked him, did you sell the car? Why should I sell it? It's only got 6,000 miles. I've been telling the next story for many years, but I love to tell it for this. My son was 6 years old. He was walking around the first grade classroom one day with, if you'll pardon me, one hand like this. The teacher asked him, what are you doing? He said, I was circumcised last week. It hurts. He says, you do not discuss a subject like that in the classroom. Go down and explain your problem to the principal. Goes down to see the principal, comes back 5 minutes later, now he's got a zipper down. He's walking around like that. What are you doing now? And the principal told me if I could stick it out till noon, I could go home. How people can get along together and have a little fun, and I wish that this whole scene would be transported to the Middle East and let them all come in and see how people should get along. There isn't much difference between Jews and Gentiles. Tell a Gentile a joke, he says, I don't get it. Tell a Jew the same joke, he says, I heard it already. Gentile leaves a party and never says goodbye. The Jew says goodbye and never leaves the party. Write it down, write it down. A lot of celebrities were invited but couldn't make it. Hugh Hefner called. He's supposed to be here, but right now he's in the maternity ward at Cedars-Sinai Hospital awaiting the birth of his next wife. We need words today, not rhetoric. We need words. If our leaders could find the words like a man, I want to tell you about the late Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We re-elected him 4 successive terms. He had that faculty of being able to inject comedy in his speeches to relieve the tension of the time. And I remember this speech in particular when he said, my friend and neighbor, I recall the most exciting political campaign of my career was in the Bronx, New York, at Fordham Road and Jerome Avenue. Here were all these wonderful Jewish people gathered around the platform asking me all kinds of questions. And it was most amazing that the longer that I spoke with them,